Let's talk about keys to integrating your healthy spirituality. I heard people say things like, well, it's just who I am.
Yeah.
And we're basically like giving the
license
world the bird
to,
and just saying like, I'm going to be me and you got to deal with it. And the reality is like, I mean, I just think that's a no-go. At some point we got to go, hey, if I want real relationship, I have to, I'm not asking you to change who you are, but we all need a bit of self-control.
Yeah.
Curiosity over judgment.
Yes.
Try this with your kids, try this with your spouse, try this with yourself, try this with an employee, try this with the boss.
Yeah.
When they're getting intense and you feel the pressure of something, just go curious.
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed you seem upset. What's going on? Curiosity. Hey, how's that make you feel?
We don't know how to be empathetic toward ourselves, and so it's pretty impossible to be empathetic towards others.
And the reason is, let's talk about keys to integrating your healthy spirituality. Number one, I wrote down becoming self-aware.
Yes. Yes.
And it is Calvin who said this in his Institutes, which I thought was very interesting. He said, without any God knowledge, there is no self-knowledge. Without any self-knowledge, there is no God knowledge.
Yeah.
If you don't know God, you'll never know who you are, which we're okay with that. But then he also goes on to say, next point is, he said, if you don't know yourself, you'll never know who God is.
Right.
So in some instances, I believe he's saying, if you don't know your own brokenness, you'll never know God as the healer of that brokenness.
Absolutely.
And if you never know how good God is, you'll never see how much you need God in your life. And so I think self-awareness is so key. And I challenge people to ask a simple question to people. And there are a lot of things you can do, 360 evaluations in a professional setting or even a family. But just simply at time, taking the risk and saying to somebody, what's it like to be on the other side of me in those moments? You know, and if you're ready for not that they'll be honest, they might.
I think if you are continually inviting their opinion,
you're opening the door for a communication more than getting
the
an
honesty
answer.
will increase.
Hey, you know, when you do that, this is what it feels like. And so then you start getting awareness like, oh, and most of the time in my case, since we're being transparent with my life today, like in my case, I'm like, oh, that's not what I meant at all.
Right.
You know, one of the things we talk about a lot with our staff is like, I've figured out, and part of it's my personality, is my intensity is my intimacy. I don't get intense with people that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I care about everybody because, you know, I'm a Christian, but like what I'm saying is like, if I don't have a bond with somebody, like I'm not even talking about getting mad at them.
Oh, no.
I might be getting mad at frustrated or intense about a situation. And they're kind of like,
either positive or negative.
Yeah, and they're like, where's all this energy coming from?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we're together. We're figuring this out. We're solving it. Or man, we're celebrating it.
Yeah.
And so helping people to understand, instead of them going like, your intensity means you're mad, or your intensity means you're upset, or your intensity means I did something wrong. No, none of that's true. My intensity is like, we're in this moment together, and we just go at it together.
Yeah.
And so I think even in our marriage, like us realizing that, like, if he's throwing down with this in this moment, like intense about a situation, because he trusts me with it, he's walking with me, we're going through the weeds together, and so becoming aware. Number two, become others aware. What would you encourage people to do to build others awareness?
Well, I think you know, you kind of touched on it. Becoming self-aware will cause you to look at like, how am I impacting other people?
Right.
Like when I behave a certain way, like the difficulty can be to excuse our behavior because this is who I am.
Right.
And so, but there has to be that tempering of understanding that others might not be prepared to handle how I am. And because I am aware of how others might perceive me, the onus is on me to reveal myself gently and give them time to receive me and understand me.
How many times have you heard people say things like, well, it's just who I am?
Yeah.
And we're basically like giving the
license
world the bird
to,
and just saying like I'm going to be me and you got to deal with it. And the reality is like, I mean, I just think that's a no-go. At some point we got to go, hey, if I want real relationship, I have to, I'm not asking you to change who you are, but we all need a bit of self-control.
Yeah.
We all need a tempering of who we are.
Yes, we all need to change who we are.
We all need to be more aware of other people than just aware of our own desire in the moment.
Yes.
and consider other people in that conversation.
And as we grow and mature, adults see each other eye to eye. And so there should be within me a desire to show up as myself,
Yeah.
but also to allow you to show up as yourself.
Yep. True.
And let's
It's good in a marriage.
Yes.
There's times we can completely disagree upon things, and not that often, but when we do, like, to be able to stand your ground and go, well, this is how I see it. And I go, well, this is how I see it. We don't have to come to a solution. We just know, like, okay, I respect how you see it.
Yes.
And we'll just have to work on that together. Like, we'll wait and see how it works out, or we'll, at least we can acknowledge the differences and make space for it. So I think it's important. Next thing, to become healthy spiritually, we talk about becoming curious.
We love that word, curious.
Curiosity is king. You've heard that
Yes.
before. I think it's so important to embrace curiosity. Curiosity over judgment.
Yes.
Try this with your kids. Try this with your spouse. Try this with yourself. Try this with an employee. Try this with the boss.
Yeah.
When they're getting intense and you feel the pressure of something, just go curious.
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed you seem upset. What's going on? Curiosity. Hey, how's that make you feel?
Yes.
And
I think that's a key with others and such a key with yourself.
Yeah.
Why is what you just said, why is that
Why does it bother
affecting
me?
me? Why does that bother me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had an instance literally like this just a couple of days ago where, you had texted me something that you had done, and it was a helpful thing, and it was a good thing. But when I read the text, it struck me as like, oh, I wanted to do that, right? And it was a particular instance, and I felt myself getting frustrated to the point where, like, I'm literally like ready to call you up and be like, hey, why did you do that? Why didn't you call me first? And blah blah blah. And so then I just kind of paused, which there's something powerful about a pause. And I just paused and I just thought, okay, Lord, help me to understand, and went curious. And I thought, oh, you know what? And I didn't go curious about, well, why did she do that? I went curious with me, like, why are you bothered by this? And then I'm like going, the truth is, she actually took care of something that needed to be taken care of. She expedited. And what I found was, like, it was more linked to my own, probably my own little bit of pride, honestly. Like, I wanted to do that. You know what I mean? I wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, like, yeah, okay. And not everything strikes me that way, but this one just did. And so going curious, never called you, never had to have a confrontation, dealt with it, realized within myself, like, oh, yeah, that's me. That's nobody else. That's my own junk. So, okay, yeah, that's not really that big a deal to me because that wasn't really the drive. And then I just moved on. So curiosity can help you, can keep you out of a lot of fights.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? Using curiosity.
Yeah.
Talk about developing empathy.
Empathy, super underdeveloped skill in most people.
Yeah.
I would say we don't know how to be empathetic toward ourselves. True. And so it's pretty impossible to be empathetic towards others.
And the reason is because our being hard on ourselves actually works for a season. Suck it up, stand up, take it, take it like a man, take it like a woman, that drive yourself into the ground actually works for a while. And so we do it, we get some progression. And so we think, whenever I'm struggling, I should be hard on myself to get progression, rather than give empathy and grace to myself, and actually work through the pain so I don't have this pain anymore.
Right.
And I don't have to face this in this particular situation that shows up constantly.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest struggle we run into is a lot of these unhealthy behaviors actually work for a while.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of high-powered, leaders, pastors, business people that they're hard-driving, workaholic, numbing out, struggling, actually was part of what led them to be people-pleasing, was what led them to be successful in their areas. Successful. Like get the job, get the raise, get the promotion, get the deal, get the sale.
Yeah.
And so it actually worked for a while, and until it doesn't. And then we watch these people implode over time, and we watch them struggle. And because of the unhealth that start to show up at that stage in their life.
Because honestly, it goes back to the motivation.
Yeah.
Your motivation is, I want to get this, I want to get this, I want to get this. When we approach ourselves with empathy, it helps us change what our motivation is.
Pay really close attention to how you talk to yourself.
Yes. Yep.
You know, what do you call yourself? How do you talk to yourself? Because it's amazing to me. I've listened to people talk about like, oh, I'm so stupid. Man, what an idiot. I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
Man, I totally failed. I mean, we're just, our judgmental talk against ourselves. Again, go back to your statement about agreeing with the Lord, agreeing with the enemy. Like, I think a lot of times God of heaven is not going, you're so stupid. You're such an idiot. You failed so hard. I don't think that ever comes out of his mouth. No. And so where does that come from? And so if we're going to make this spiritual integration of these two worlds, we got to go, I need to pay attention to how I talk to myself.
Yeah.
Because how you talk to yourself is inevitably how you'll start talking to other people at some point. So then you go that others' awareness. Right. Like empathy is massive. And
it may not, that talk towards others may not ever come out of your mouth, but it's raging in your mind. And then you're creating this dissonance within yourself because
I'm
then
nice to you,
because
but I really
I'm
don't
saying
like you.
nice things to you like, oh, it's okay, and inside you're going, you're an idiot. I will never trust you with this.
There's
again.
times I've made mistakes, and empathy helps me go. Lack of empathy is, oh, you're so stupid. How could you do this? Is going to blow everything up, and everything. It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then I feel like I'm on the pressure point to go out and fix it.
Yeah.
There's sometimes I've blown it where empathy prevails, and I go, oh man, I didn't know any better. I made a mistake.
Yep.
I didn't really understand what would happen. And so now I can learn from it and move forward without this pressure and keep my relationships intact and keep my own health intact, my spiritual walk with the Lord intact.
And that empathy helps you then to commit to growth.
Right.
Because you're recognizing that, like, okay, I learned something from that mistake. And I'm going to put some guardrails, some processes, some people in place that will keep me from making that mistake again.
I remember a few episodes ago, somebody made a comment when I said that people don't grow under judgment. One of the clips we put up, people don't grow, and they were like, "What about the military? What about the military?" And I was like, "Okay, good point." Because the idea is, man, they're just bashing you, but I would challenge it. They're not really. They're not kind necessarily. They're actually trying to strip you of all of your brokenness and get you into a place where they can shape you. But here's what I would say. There's an equal level of high challenge and support.
Yes.
What they're actually trying to get you is to bond together as a group. So the support will be there in times of trauma, difficulty, challenge for the future, because that's what your job's going to be.
Yeah.
So there's a purpose to it. It's not that they're just being judgmental. They're really not. Now they're approaching it in a very probably perceivably harsh way. And some of that's, and again, the other side of this as well, let's look at the trauma that's caused, PTSD and all the things that are coming out of the military. Not against the military, love the military. But like, just because this is the way we behave doesn't mean it's helpful and healthy in the long run.
Right.
Okay. But here's what I would say is like, because I know a lot of guys have been traumatized through those experiences, and a lot of guys grew up in those moments. Like, man, if I wouldn't have done that, I was a punk kid, and it's worked in my life, and I served my country. But here's what I would say: they're combining that high challenge with high support.
Absolutely.
Which is the key.
Yes.
So this empathy is not like just support and no challenge.
Correct.
It is, okay, I'm going to give empathy to myself to not just judge myself. I'm going to actually give support to myself, and others can help me with that support so that I can face the challenge I've got equally and actually succeed.
Yes.
So we always talk about high challenge, high support. They got to match.
Yep.
If there's high challenge without support, man, it won't be long until you're just failing.
Yeah.
If it's high support without high challenge, then you may never get anything done. You may just be like, well, let's all just sit around and talk about how nice we need to be to each other. And that's not what we're getting at.
No.
It's the balance of both. So last two, and we'll go through these practice times of...
That's the last one.
There's two. The practice times of silence and solitude, and then committing to growth.
Yeah.
Committing to this process of growth. And so practice times of solitude and silence. And this is the be still and know that I'm God. So with your emotions, one of the things I do quite often is I'll ask the Holy Spirit to saturate my emotions.
Yeah.
And while they are gifts to me, they're the check engine light of my life that go, hey, pay attention. Okay, I'm paying attention, Holy Spirit. Now what would you like to tell me about this? How can you lead me into truth and wisdom and counsel and comfort about that area and speak truth to me? Man, you have a counselor in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's meant to replace relationship with others, even professional counselors,
Correct.
necessarily. I think he is the first and foremost part of that. But sometimes, as we say, you need a Jesus with skin on to walk this thing out together.
Yes.
But that being silent, solitude, disconnecting from the busyness of the day, which we don't do well.
No.
Even if we were just to do it a few minutes every day, just pause, be still, turn off the phone.
It puts things in proper perspective.
It does. There's a tremendous amount that God is doing in silence.
Yes.
I think we have to understand that. And then that commitment to growth.
Yes.
You have to commit to become healthy. You got to make a commitment. This is a road. This is a journey.
Yes.
This does not happen by accident.
Right.
We don't get healthy. I just don't wake up one day and be like, man, I lost 15 pounds last night.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
You've got to put in effort. What am I going to eat? How am I going to work out?
Yeah.
What am I not going to eat? Same thing with emotional, spiritual health.
Yes.
What am I going to put in?
Yeah.
What am I not going to put in?
Yes.
Where am I not going to go with this?
Yes.
And by doing those things, then we can start to grow healthy.
Yeah. So good.
I'm appreciative of the journey that we've been on and the part that you've played in this and helping me become aware of some of my perhaps unhealth and you and the Holy Spirit together.
It's been fun.
It has. It's
been extremely rewarding.
Yeah. Our stress level has diminished. Our
joy has increased.
Our pressure has decreased.
Yeah.
It's like we're okay. Like we're not perfect. You're never done.
No.
That's why the commitment's important. Is like there's still things I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yep.
But at least now having language, handles, the ability to address it, awareness, that moves you so far.
And the work that we've done and the benefit that we've seen spurs us to take on more work.
Even in our own kids.
For more benefits.
And it's not that it's perfect, but like watching our kids, self-author, have some agency, talk back in a very honoring but healthy way.
Yeah.
And they're older, so we're not dealing with 5 and 6 year olds. It's hard to have a healthy conversation with a 5-year-old, but although you start then, that's really how's
absolutely.
that how's that making you feel? Let's talk about good emotion. Let's talk about but watching our kids, calmly collected conversations and where we come to understanding and grow, like, oh, I understand.
Yes.
And empathy. That's what you want. You want that deep connection with your children on into their adulthood.
Right.
And subsequently grandchildren and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it is worth it.
Yes.
Getting spiritually, emotionally healthy together, integrated, is worth it. It brings such value. But it is hard work at the same time. So, well, hey, I think that pretty much wraps it up for us here at the table. And so we hope that this has been somewhat helpful to you. A lot of resources we've kind of mentioned throughout the course of the day. And feel free to check those things out. And again, if this has been helpful to you, if you could share it, I think that's the best way to help us reach people with these messages. But it's also if you can like and share and subscribe, those things, what they do is kind of raising the whole algorithm, as they call it, and help people just become aware of it, because that's our heart. We want to help people come to the table, have some real conversations, grow, get healthy, love Jesus, love each other, all of the above. So thanks for hanging out with us. We love you and appreciate you. Look forward to the comments and interacting with you, and we'll see you soon again at the table.